Hi all, how are you? This is Alessandro from Sonora Cinematic, and today I'm here to introduce you to Magnetica REDUX, the new completely free sample library for Kontakt 6 full. So you are going to need the full version of Kontakt 6 to make it work. If you're familiar with my work, and mostly on my other YouTube channel, which is just called Alessandro Mastroianni, Magnetica was a sample library that I released back in March at the very beginning of the lockdown. There were sad times I had, and I basically decided to put out my very first sample library under my own name. I used to do a few sample libraries for other developers, and I never did anything under my own name, and I kind of put it out there. It was mostly the recordings of a Fender Stratocaster played with an eBow, and then I created my Magnetism series. And now that we have a web store ready to go, I thought I would make a little update to Magnetica, updating it with a GUI, directly taken from the two main libraries, Magnetism Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I also added a few sound sources. I optimized the code and did a few things. And I really hope you like it. But let's play it right away. All right, so the samples that you're listening to are exactly the original samples from the Magnetica, from the original Magnetica library. And if you go on sample selection, just like in Magnetism, you can select the two main sources. So you have a main layer and a texture layer with independent volume. So let's turn down for a second the texture layer, and here is the Strat played with the eBow. You do have two other sounds. So the first one is exactly the same sound which I processed through my modular synthesizer using some granular engine, and then using some guitar pedals to create some heavy distortion. Which I think it's fun. It's a clearly different sound. I love how it sounds down here. Very horror kind of sound. And then finally, there is a piano-like sound. And again, this is a felt piano processed through a granular synthesizer. It's more kind of a beautiful, inspiring, atmospheric kind of sound. And then let's turn on some of the texture layer. There are two texture layers. The first one is the one that was featured on the original Magnetica library as well. It's called Crystal Kalimba. It's kind of a way to add spark to your sound. Actually, let's play with a long sound. I think it sounds a little bit more interesting. And as a second texture layer, you have a wavetable synthesizer. This is interesting because if you have the wavetable selected as a second layer, the modulation will also change the position of the wavetable. You can create some really interesting morphing effects. Kind of really broken, and I think it's pretty interesting. So let's finish talking about these two main layers first. Let's put the granular dirt eBow sound, and here you also have a LFO that you can use, two independent LFOs that work on both layers. Can make it work here as well, maybe on a different rhythm. Now let's go back to the original sound. And here there is a very comprehensive effect section. There is some delay. This is the new replica delay, which I really like. So you can create some really interesting modulated delays. I love in this diffusion algorithm. Reminds me a lot of one of my favorite guitar pedals, the Strymon Big Sky. So I use this one quite a lot, but you also have all sorts of more regular sounding delays. Can hear the modulation, it's a bit high. Nice, this kind of detune tail to it. There are a whole lot of distortion. Lo-fi is my favorite probably, which is a bit reduction algorithm. Can get very broken. Now you have a more regular tube screamer kind of sound. Obviously works really well with guitar, and then more classic distortion. Another effect that I guess could be considered a distortion is here a tape saturation algorithm. So this simulates tape. It's also kind of cool. Then you have a fully functional convolution reverb with a bunch of settings. And two basic filters. So you have a Foreman filter. And here obviously the cool thing to do on Kontakt is to map something to it. I just mapped the mod wheel to talk. That's always fun to do. And same thing with a more classic low pass. Let's map CC1 again. So now CC1 is actually changing the lockout of the filter as well as the main knob. That's a Moog style ladder filter. And that's it. I really hope you like it. This is Magnetica REDUX is available on the Sonora Cinematic web store. I'm gonna link it down here in the description. And it's completely free. Again, you do need the full version of Kontakt 6.4.1. But if you add that, you're good. And I really hope you enjoy it. Thanks. See you soon.